Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How Your Client is Impacted by Grief. So, I am Katie Ressler, Transformative Grief Guide, licensed counselor, and creator of the Legacy Growth Methodology and Certification Program. And today, I have a very special guest. She is a woman of really a jack of all trades. She's amazing. A Jane of all trades, I guess we would say. Sashka would be a Jane of all trades. Introduce yourself, share with us what you do, where you do it, and what type of clients do you serve right now?
What, where, and who?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start with the who. I serve creative visionaries. It doesn't really matter from what background you come, I was German, you come from. It doesn't really matter what culture you're from. The most important element is that you're a creative visionary. And we'll probably go into that later. What do I do? There are three pillars. There's a marketing agency that we serve creative visionaries with. So with their visual branding, content marketing, social media marketing, marketing strategy, brand strategy. Then there's Future Forward Hub, which is podcast and events. So there's a podcast, Future Forward Hub, and then the events where we help the creative visionaries with roadshows and events, creating them, implementing them, executing them. And then there's BrandSashka, which is the leading talent agency for entrepreneurs. It's a market that hasn't actually been tapped into. Usually a talent agency is associated with entertainment and sportsmen and contracts around that, but we represent entrepreneurs, creative visionaries that have a methodology, regular people implementing extraordinary change. Hope that answered.
Well done, yes. And you're also a professor?
I'm also a professor, yes, at the University of Applied Sciences in Austria, and behavioral psychologist, as well as a life coach.
See, I mean, just.
And an entertainer. So I'm also an actress, singer, and dancer. And
yes.
a mama and a mommy.
Oh my goodness. And go follow her on TikTok if you want some great humor and just an enjoyment of life. Hilarious, hilarious. Okay. So you get to decide how we discuss your clients, because you have clients in a variety of ways, but what are some of the key issues your clients come to you for?
Big vision, small mindset. So there's a lot happening around that. So how do we fill the gap? So how do I go from here, or this vision, how do I make even going backwards? So it's not even going forwards, but really going backwards from this big vision that I have, that you also, most of the visionaries that come to me, their vision is still small because they don't trust themselves to actually go even bigger with that vision. Because why me? Why should I be doing it? Who would ever believe me that I could actually implement something like this? And who would take me seriously? And why am I credible? And then how to make that happen using, either as an entrepreneur, so you're going to have your marketing steps, or as in your life, how we're going to manage that in terms of what career, what my vocation is, how do I want to achieve that? What's my purpose, my values, my vision and mission in life? Or, you might just be a young teenager that doesn't know where you want to go in life, and working with them as well.
Yeah. Okay. So Sashka is my agent, and she is completely that, the visionary for the visionary. So when you feel like, oh, I don't know if I could ever get there, so I'm afraid to even set those goals, which has hidden grief wrapped all up in it, she's the one that goes, no, we're keeping that first goal. We're not adjusting it. You're going to get there. And you really hold that vision for people. I think it's amazing in the work that you do.
Thank you.
Well, let's dive into grief, since I've tapped into that subject. Now, as we talk about grief, and if you've watched the prior episodes, then we're talking about hidden grief, not grief necessarily related to death. It's the grief that society doesn't always accept as something you should be grieving over, whether it be a loss, an adjustment, issues throughout your childhood, a lot of that inner child work we need to be doing, or inner teen work that Sashka and I like to do too. It's recognizing that we have to let go of the way we thought life would or should go. And sometimes that means facing unrealistic expectations or false beliefs that we were kind of ingrained in us in our how we were parented. So as we look at your clients and these visionaries and these teens and, those who are really looking to just go the next place in their life, that next level, what are some of the areas of hidden grief you're noticing your clients are bringing to the table? You can, if you need to share my stuff, you can. I give you permission.
Okay, cool. So the first thing that comes to mind are a lot of coping mechanisms. A lot of visionaries, because they stand out and have been told they're too much or OTT, over the top, they've taught themselves through coping mechanisms to keep themselves small. So they'll break out in little parts somewhere and then just kind of test the waters. And if they feel safe there, or they feel accepted, not necessarily safe, if they feel, okay, this is okay, they'll show a little bit of it, but not too much, because they might be ridiculed or put down or whatever. So there are a lot of coping mechanisms that come into play. So, which is hidden grief. So things like pushing, doing all the time, always coming up with some new ideas and never actually completing the project, or failing at it, because you can't fail. You have to keep on going. So you have to make sure that that idea really works. And if it doesn't work, you're just going to adjust it, adapt it, do something more, add, take away, whatever. So you're always in a state of doing. You never sleep. You never have a good rest. You never feel rested. You're always you micromanaging. So there's a lot of, so you'll hire someone and then you'll be like, have you done this? Have you done this? Has this been done? Has this been done? So there's a lot of coping mechanisms there as well, because we haven't been taught to self-soothe ourselves, hidden grief.
Right.
And that inner child or inner teenager that's there as being, wanting the acceptance. And through the years, you've created a personality and identity to the persona that on the outside fits everyone else, but you're actually the square in the peg hole, and you're needing to be that visionary that creates your own squares and not be squashed into a peg hole. So understanding why you want to fit into the peg hole, that hidden grief, for me, that's the main thing, is the coping mechanism. Could be eating, you could be working out a lot, health-wise, mindset, over mindsetting. Like you can really get into mindset where you talk the talk, but you don't walk the talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's something you and I have bonded over, the importance of, we really have to walk this before you really can be like, okay, let me talk about it. Like, you need to be walking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and what you talked about is like these coping skills and wanting to fit into this circle hole, but you're square. And it goes back to in our childhood when we're told, you're being too loud, you're asking too many questions, you're whatever it might be, you're too spacey, you're too out there, you're not focused. I see this with my 8-year-old and my family recently. We're like, this is how you were. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, she turns out okay then, right? But and it's, I can see how in today's world, we want to condition those things out, because it's like, no, you need to be in the moment and here and focused, and, and her creative mind is going everywhere. And so it's very sacred for me to hold on to that and not condition that out of her. But I can see how that happens. And I've worked with clients where it was, they've always said to me, I always felt like I didn't fit in, and I was the black sheep of the family. And often the work we do, and I listen to their stories and I go, you do realize you were like the healthiest person in your family. Like, you might've been the black sheep, but like, you were the healthy black sheep. Like, you were the outsider because of that. Right. And these visionaries often were that. They were the ones that stood out, and people around them said things or did things, and it made them go like, okay, I have to be small, or I'm not allowed to be this way. And this is where your theater background in dancing and singing and performing helps, because you push those of us you work with to say, who cares? Who cares what they think? And if you care, what is that about? And so that's beautiful that you're able to help us hit our hidden grief, head on in a way. And I know that's only because you've done the work yourself.
Big time.
Yeah. So I think it's beautiful what you do and how you help these visionaries, and truly even the branch you started going on with teens, and really helping them to see the future doesn't have to look so bleak when maybe at home it did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Any other areas where you're noticing hidden grief with your clients showing up, or areas that you're starting to see, even in the industry, it become more and more of an issue?
Oh, in the industry. I think the industry has always been the same. I was just speaking to my marketing manager because we're working on a pitch to investors, which scares the living shit out of me. And she's helping me push my boundaries as well. She's a good mirror to me. And the thing in the industry is that we're so used to, as I said, the square and the peg hole. When you've been told or in the market for so long that everything's blue, and you're going, yeah, but there's yellow. And you're going, well, how do I bring that yellow into the blue? Because when we mix them, it'll create something new, a new color, a new effect, whatever it is. And having the courage, or I don't know, the faith or whatever, to actually add that yellow to the blue. And in the industry, it's all revolved around fame, revenue, those two main things, whereas a visionary is all around impact foremost. And revenue is, how am I going to use that money to impact the impact, to enforce the impact with empathy, with non-judgment. Obviously, you need to make money. Obviously, you need to have revenue coming in and wealth. But the industry is very focused on, you're only successful if you have revenue, basically.
Right.
Even on social media, or actually more on social media in these times, because we can see how many followers you have. So just this morning, I saw someone following me. I think they have like less than 300 followers, but I'm a 6-figure coach. And I'm like, dude, that just doesn't work with one another. Like, how can you be a 6-figure coach and you have 300 followers? Like, where's the discrepancy over there? So, but then in my mind, I went, oh, I'm judging already because of what the industry tells me, all that blue. But it might be that you just joined Instagram, for example.
Right.
And you might be successful somewhere else, but you have the confidence to put that in there because you believe in yourself. So I don't know, status quo that's in the industry, also coping mechanism, because we're all doing. I don't know. I would say that's also like what I see.
Yeah. Well, it's being led by the numbers instead of your heart.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is, no, I see this and I know this is supposed to happen. And it's like, well, if the numbers aren't there, then you shouldn't be doing it, kind of thing. Yeah. Yes. A lot of grief work around that, and a lot of grief work around the things you do. So you are amazing.
Yeah, I'm busy each day. Like when I go to bed, I'm
you talked about it. You got to make sure you get good sleep.
Exactly.
So what do you find fellow people, coaches and marketers and those who are helping visionaries, are lacking in education on hidden grief in order to help their clients really heal and step forward authentically?
So it's very similar to the entertainment world in that the stars usually stumble on holistic work around themselves and their identity and persona much later, after they've been groomed for so long. And then they kind of discover, oh, hang on, I'm not actually this person, and this is who I actually am. And then they do all the inner child work and work on that before they actually get in there. And what I see with the market is, repeat the question again, please, Katie.
Yeah. So how do you find fellow people in the marketing industry and coaches and those who are helping visionaries? What are they lacking in how they work with their clients around hidden grief?
That's what I wanted to say. So when they discover it at a later stage, wouldn't it be awesome if we already had the legacy growth methodology and working with people in the beginning to understand themselves as they moving forward and progressing forward? And that's what I think really does lack in the market, is that there's a lot of focus put on your piece of paper and what have you studied and what have you learned. And it's nice to have that on paper, but it hasn't been executed in real life and applied in real life to gain that experience. And through experience, you learn to educate yourself for all the things where it's like, oh, well, they told me it was blue all the time, but actually I like red. Like red is really cool. And that person's got yellow. And we're also diverse in having that open-mindedness, that holistic view. I think but it'll come, but the market, so there's no judgment or anything, however, we need to be more holistic in our perspective, and more of a bird's eye view to see the different perspectives. But even so, I suppose we need it in order to, bounce off one another, to find what the hidden grief is, to see, okay, we need a holistic point of view. So we need those barriers in order to move forward.
Yeah. So it sounds like if these coaches and these, people in marketing and the visionary workers like you are working with are able to start doing their own work earlier on, they can then guide and help their clients later on.
Yeah.
Because they've already done the work versus wait till they've got the clientele and then be like, oh, I should work on this.
Yeah.
And then, so it's really about their own personal work, which I agree with. Well,
because we all want to be,
go ahead.
Sorry, we all want to be perfect. We all want to, that's one of the biggest things is when I work with a lot of people, everything needs to be perfect in the beginning. And I'm going, no, that's the whole point, is being imperfect to strive towards a better version of you, because there is no perfection. Yeah. So, and in that process of making mistakes, because you'll start something and fail at it and then get back up and then you'll find a different version of it.
Right. And that's all about growing towards authenticity.
Yes.
Behind closed doors, how are you? Why can't we see that too?
Exactly. Yeah.
How can people find you if they're interested in working with you?
Oh, BrandSashka.com. So BrandSashka.com. Pretty much everywhere there. And then on Instagram, also BrandSashka, and LinkedIn and TikTok, I'm the queen of getting shit done. So that's more my fun side, because it's kind of like, when coaches usually give you this task to ask other people, like, what do they most see in you? What do they most see you actually, if they could sum you up with one word. So many people have told me that I just don't care. I'm just like, just do it. Just do the step. Just say yes and figure it out later. So I'm the queen of getting shit done. So I just like, I do it. And Instagram is also the Sashka Regina.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Last question. What is the funniest moment you've had doing the work that you do?
Funniest moment. Everything's funny with me because I'm a comedian. So there's be like, what is the most serious moment you've had? What is the funniest moment I've had? I don't know, Katie.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah. What's the funniest moment I've had? Like, what do you mean by funny? Like funny, haha, or?
Yeah, it can be funny, haha. One has shared a spider crawling down the wall during a session, and she didn't know that, and she just saw her client's eyes going down the wall. She said that made her laugh for a long time. Another one has shared with me that she helped her client come to a greater realization, but through that, the client had to like a huge belly laugh to go like, I understand now. So it could be also whatever funny is for you.
Do you want to hear something really authentic?
Yes.
I'm even blushing we're talking about it. Because it's never happened to me. I was doing a podcast interview and it was recent. I'm going, I can't believe I'm saying this. Anyway, I was doing the podcast interview and I have a cold and I coughed, but I was on my periods. So like, I have to pause. I'll be with you in a second. I'm all red. Can you see I'm all red? No, I can feel I'm all red. So that was probably a funny moment.
Yes, definitely. I can imagine in the moment you're like,
she looked at me and she was like, are you okay? And I'm going, I have to pause. I was like, I'm going to the toilet. I'll be back. I was like, you're a woman. You'll understand this. I mean, if it's someone else, one of my friends, Tyron, who's a male, he would understand that as well, but still, yeah.
Yep. It's those moments where behind the scenes, people don't always know what's really going on, but that's what it's really like.
Here's a
Well,
funny moment for you. There
thank you so much for being on here. If you're interested in learning more about hidden grief and how you work with your clients, I encourage you to go to my website, katieressler.com, click on certification, and make sure you check out when the next start date is. If you're interested in doing the work, then go to katieressler.com and click on work with me. Sashka, again, thank you so much for being on mine. I've been on your podcast so many times. I'm so used to it. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being on here. We're authentically being imperfect, and I love it.
All the way.
Very good. You enjoy the rest of your day, and
You
everyone
too.
else will see you next week.
Love you.